FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice.
And I am Alfred Ocansey.
The news is also live on Kesme 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 1.5 hours, tonight, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission petitions National Labour Commission seeking an order to compel striking tutors of colleges of education to immediately call off their strike action.
Well, current power crisis to intensify for the next 3 weeks as HCG and Gridco announce gas supply challenges from the West Africa Gas Pipeline Company. We have details of that shortly.
Also later, Constitutional Review Committee makes a raft of proposals to amend Ghana's constitution, including restricting the president to appoint only 25 MPs as ministers of state. Tonight, we analyze these and several other recommendations with governance and legal experts.
Also this evening, we give you details of what's happening on campaign trail here on your election command center as we inch up to election 2024, plus the latest in business and sports. The next 1 hour, 30 minutes, we're live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and also on W93.5 in Wa and beyond.
We're also streaming live on 3FM 92.7 on Facebook. Lord Edwasare is here with the latest in news briefs.
Thank you, Beatrice. Let's get the news summaries now. The Fair Wages and Salaries Commission has petitioned the National Labour Commission to compel tutors of the colleges of education to call off their strike. The Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, who described the strike by the tutors as smacking of bad faith, says without dialogue, their grievances cannot be addressed. Also, the chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education, NCCE, Kathleen Addy, has said the world must not come to an end for supporters of the defeated candidate in the forthcoming general election. She cautioned against extreme partisanship, which breeds tension amongst supporters during electioneering campaigns. In the north, a Wa High Court has adjourned the murder case of the former chief executive officer of the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, also known as Jirapa Dubai, Eric Johnson, to July 12, 2024. According to Justice of the Supreme Court presiding as a High Court judge, Justice Abdul Yusuf Asibe, the move was to allow Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu to have a broader consultation on the intended transfer of the case from Wa to Kumasi. Justice Asibe said the court had received information from the Chief Justice that her office had received many petitions regarding the transfer of the case before the High Court. The Republic versus Elisha Mahama and 2 others are needed to conduct broader consultations to reach a decision. That's for the news summaries here. Alfred?
Wonderful. There's more news on 3news.com, Lord, and make some time and visit 3news.com. And this is Hot Edition. We'll start off our journey this evening with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, shall we?
Indeed, and the Commission has petitioned the National Labour Commission to compel tutors of colleges of education to call off their strike. The Fair Wages and Salaries Commission says that the move by the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, CTAG, smacks of bad faith, especially when they could have chosen to dialogue rather than embark on an industrial action. This comes as the tutors across all 46 public colleges of education begin an indefinite strike. This actually started today to press home their demand for improved conditions of service. CTAC, among other things, is accusing the government of failing to implement the National Labour Commission's arbitral award orders and negotiated service conditions. They also complained about the non-payment of 1 month basic allowance after they had forfeited their leave days. Listen to Prince Obeng Hima, who is the president of CTAC.
Section 164 of the Labour Act. It tells you that when the National Labour Commission comes out with orders, nobody can vary it. And when you also look at the ADR Alternative Dispute Resolution 798, it also tells you that with all due respect to the Supreme Court, not even the Supreme Court can vary the decisions of the orders of the National Labour Commission. So we are baffled that down to almost 1 year, over 1 year down the line, the orders are yet to be complied with. And mind you, it impoverishes our people. It infringes on people's economic rights. people who ought to have benefited from this arrangement before going on retirement would have had different salary scale which will determine what they will take when they go home. Now you deprive them of that. They've gone home with meager salaries, and people when they go home after 60, that is where all forms of payment also come out. So what are you doing? You are helping to sign the death warrant of those people, and I don't think this should be countenanced. So that is why we have activated Section 159 of the Labour Act, which is legal strike action, having exhausted all energies to get them to do what they have to do. So as we speak now, we have sent letters to our members across the country, and then meetings have been conducted, the strike has been activated, and it's indefinite strike. Or wait till the government complies fully with all the arbitral award.
You heard Prince Obinhima, he's the president of CTAC. The strike has had an impact on academic activities across campuses. My colleague Evelyn Tema was at the Accra College of Education and came through with the following report.
Of Education, the lecturers are on strike, and some of them tell us that as of this morning, they were in the classroom to teach when they received a message from their executives to stop teaching. Now, they are not happy that they have to embark on this strike, but what they are saying is that their welfare is also important and that their employer must make sure it does the needful.
Myself, for instance, I was in class teaching when my union chair, the local chair of Accra College of Education, came to the classroom to ask me to stop teaching because we have begun the strike. It is going to take the quality of my teaching, because should the strike takes a longer period, when I come, in as much as I try to cover up, it might affect the quality of teaching, because I may try to speed up things to cover up the lost time. It's not just about teaching. When I teach, I should be given what I deserve.
The lecturer, Ebenezer Edu, said they feel disrespected by their employer, adding, until their demands are met, they will not resume work.
2023 academic year, teachers of colleges of education taught throughout the year without a break. And so the government promised giving us all year long allowance. As we speak, nothing of that sort have come. And then we're also training degree holders. The kind of things they do in the mother university, we do them even sometimes more than. And when it comes to remunerations, we are exempted with. So we felt that they don't respect our views, and therefore we also have to advise ourselves, and that is exactly what we have done.
Students have also pleaded with government to immediately address the concerns of the lecturers.
It's probably not a good news for us. We just came last week and then second week, and then if lecturers are going on strike, it's not a good thing. But I believe it is to a cost, and especially we are at the training college like this, that we will also be teachers one day. It's a cause that we need to support, and then plead on the government that whichever reason why they are going on the strike should be looked at.
It's not well in the best interest of the students for lecturers to be on strike, because it distorts our academic calendar, and at the end of the day, we the students will lack, because when we go to the examination and probably things are to be taught and we are not taught, at least when we go there we find it a very big challenge.
Evelyn Tengma filed that report. Now, as this happens, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is also expressing surprise over the tutors' move, especially when it had written numerous letters inviting them to the negotiating table, but to no avail. Chief Executive Officer of the Fair Wages Commission, Engineer Ben Arthur, addressed a news conference a while ago.
On the 6th of June, the ministry invited them for a meeting. They failed to show up. Yesterday, the sector minister invited them for a meeting. They failed to show up. And today, we're supposed to have a meeting. You could see all the government side came here at 10, only to be served a notice after that period that they are not showing up. So government has demonstrated goodwill towards it, because we believe that it is mutually beneficial, and it will benefit this country that at least we do something for our colleagues who are teaching in the colleges of education. And government means well. So we are calling on them to go back to the classroom to go and teach. This strike is out of bad faith. If they are very much interested in getting good conditions for their members, why are they not going to the National Labour Commission? Why have they decided that they will take the law into their own hands and embark on a strike and not to show up at work? So from Monday, if they are not going to show up, we shall also take the appropriate decision accordingly.
You heard the Chief Executive Officer of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Ben Arthur. The President of Principals of Colleges Education, Ghana, Professor Samuel Atintonu, appealed to CTAC members to return to the negotiating table.
So we are not happy. The students resumed just a week. Today is exactly 1 week that the students returned to campus. They started teaching on Monday, and then we expected that with the tight calendar that we have, after COVID, we wanted to get back to our normal calendar, which means that by September we should be done with the second semester. So all this particular action is going to destabilize it. And our appeal to them is that it is better we are back in the lecture halls and then we'll do the engagement. That will actually speed up the process of whatever grievances they have. And dialogue should be the way to go rather than this strike action. It's not helping them, and it's not also helping ourselves and the students. Bear in mind our own daughters and sons. So they just come back and then embark on a strike is not the best way to go.
Samuel Atintonu is the President of Principals of Colleges of Education, Ghana. Prince Obinghima is the President of CTAC. He joins us live on the phone. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on Hot Edition.
Good evening and thanks for the opportunity.
The Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is accusing you of bad faith because you could have chosen dialogue. And even at the press conference explained that there had been several calls for you to join a meeting and you failed to show up, only for you to declare an indefinite strike today.
Good evening to you, your cherished listeners, as well as the members of CTAC, over 2,000 members who are hooked to this wonderful platform of yours by the power of internet. It is important to state that we understand the desperation of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission because they are paid to work, so they should be seen as working. Their objective, I believe, is to protect government payers, and that is exactly what they are doing. Apart from that, we do not side with them in any of the issues they are raising. One, negotiation ended the time the National Labour Commission brought out its arbitral award orders. And the arbitral award orders were never contested by way of an appeal. So it means that both parties were good to go with the implementation. And I'm not sure you do not need to tag in any meeting to be able to simply implement the orders of the National Labour Commission. It is important to mention that by the NLC's own orders, you look at 164, it tells you that when the NLC comes out with orders, it is imperative on the parties that appear before the NLC to comply. And when arbitral orders are given, look, when you look at the ADR 798, it tells you that with the greatest respect for even the Supreme Court, not even the Supreme Court can vary. They can seek to vary the orders, arbitral orders of the National Labour Commission. So I don't see where the bad faith comes in.
You do not think that perhaps the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, as well as other stakeholders who are interested in this issue, may have certain things they want to clarify or clear the reason they felt there was a need for you to come for a meeting, but you felt just implement what has been given?
It's been over 1 year since the orders came out, 2nd May 2023, since the orders came out. And we have had a series of meetings. And it is obvious that the solution to the issue doesn't lie in attending meetings. It simply lies with implementation of the orders. So today, just this meeting that we're not able to attend, and it's normal. You call a meeting, our invitation came last night when we were already in the middle of conversation. We sent a decent apology to the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, letting them know that looking at our scattered locations and what we're already into, it wasn't practically feasible to be part of today's meeting, and that becomes an issue. I'm not sure we should be looking at that. Let's look at we will not allow ourselves to be drawn into those things. We are focused on getting the National Labour Commission to enforce its own orders. Because if it were a union that had refused to comply with the orders of the Commission, they would have gone to the High Court. Recently, it happened to the pre-tertiary teachers. When they were asked to go back to work and they refused to go, they went back to court, standing on the orders to be able to get court orders to compel them to go back to work. We want the NSC to go back to the court with the same alacrity, get this terms and then compel the government to comply with the orders. Finito.
You're saying that you received the message last night and you sent a decent apology to the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission explaining that your members are scattered abroad, the reason you could not honor the invitation to attend that meeting. But if I listen to the explanation you've given from the beginning of this interview, it looks like that was just an excuse because you truly don't want to go for any meeting.
Well, we've been part of meetings and who am I to say you shouldn't interpret it the way you want? That's how you see it. But we do not see it that way. The fact that we've been part of meetings all along is suggestive of the fact that we've been cooperative, we respect state institutions. Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is a respectable state institution. We've been part of their meetings all along. So that's one meeting that we couldn't go that's not mark of bad faith.
Again, you said that you believe that the explanation being given by the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, especially when it describes your action as being in bad faith, is just a sign of protecting the purse of the government. But I'm sure you heard the president of Principals of Colleges of Education Ghana, Professor Samuel Atintonu, saying that this action of yours is not good for you and is not good for the government either. So either way, both of you are losing. How do you react to that?
Professor Tono, good evening to you where you are. He is my mentor in the labor, the unionized business, and I truly understand him. He's talking from an administrative point of view. What you have done far, you are paid to ensure that teaching and learning goes on in the college. So what do you expect him to say? He will tell us that we have to, it's not good because academic work wouldn't go on. But he knows deep down within the struggles we go through and the fact that government not implementing this is impoverishing us. The people ought to have been on decent pay arrangements long before, a year ago, people who are on retirement. And those people who are on retirement now who never benefit, you know what you have done to them? You find their death warrant. Because they ought to have been on a high-level salary so that their retirement arrangement will be different. Now that you didn't do, they went on an old salary scale. And after 50 is where people's ailments come out, where they need money to be able to survive. So what have you done to them? What have you done to them? And we don't want this trajectory to continue. So we want Brinkoff, we want all the people to rally behind us so that we'll have permanent solution to this particular, issue.
You just called Professor Samuel Atintonu your mentor. He appealed to you and your members to rescind this decision. Are you going to oblige him? Are you going to listen to what he said?
I think we've listened to the appeal of Brinkoff and other people for over a year. And where we are now, people should also see us as other people's children with future. And for that matter, we also deserve guaranteed economic, future and stuff like that. So we're also looking at all those things and thinking about our future as well.
Obviously, you're adamant with this response you're giving, but the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission CEO said that if by Monday you don't call off the strike, the commission would also take an action. Aren't you concerned?
We envisaged that we'll get to a point like that, and we know that they will even trigger what we have on our table as the second, plan, the third plan, and what have you.
Which is what?
When we get there,
Exactly?
We are in the hands of competent lawyers and then labor advisors, and we are poised to ensure that we follow through to get the best for us, for our members. Look, when we went on strike the other time, how did they explain this? Before even the National Labour Commission could come out to say the strike was legal or otherwise, the ministry went ahead and froze our salaries. And freezing the salary after the strike, they said they should restore the salary. As we speak now, August 2023 salary of most of our members, including my good self speaking to you, the president, remain locked up without any justifiable cause. And is that a Ghana we want? We think people should abuse power, abuse office because they are there. We should be seen as protecting the constitutional, the economic rights of people.
You think that's what the authorities are doing? They're abusing the rights of individuals like yourself?
It's abuse of office. Because if orders come out that we have to comply, and 1 year down the line, the orders are yet to be complied with, and people do not see anything wrong with it. But when we go through process to, as it were, trigger 159, Section 159 which is legal strike action, and then we are in the news for the bad reason. I'm sure we need to protect the Constitution of Ghana.
Did I hear you indirectly say that if the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission decides to go to court, you're ready to face it?
When we get there, we don't want to dare the National Labour Commission. But as I said, we are poised to follow through to the logical conclusion. We can assure our members it's a well-rehearsed, well-thought-through action that we are going through, and we know the law is on our side. So when we get there, we'll be able to cross the bridge.
When we get there, we'll be able to cross the bridge. We'll end it here. Thank you very much, Prince Obeyinhima. He is the president of CTAG.
Well, still staying with the issues in the education sector, all is not well as we speak, Beatrice, because the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, is saying the impending Basic Education Certificate Examination, that's BCE, scheduled for July 2024, faces possible cancellation due to severe funding challenges. Now, the council has expressed grave concern about government's failure to release critical funds needed for the preparation and administration of the exams. As the July 8, 2024 exam date approaches, time is running out for the purchase of necessary logistics. Now, the Director of Public Affairs at WAEC has highlighted the urgency of the situation, stressing the need for immediate financial support to avoid a disruption of the examinations. Now, the Director of Public Affairs, John Kapi, said for BEC, they still have an outstanding payment of 698,500 Ghana cedis. And then for the 2024 examination, they expect a total amount of 95,837,306 Ghana cedis from government. That's 97,835,306 Ghana cedis from government. But already for the 2023 BEC, there's an outstanding debt of 698,500 that government hasn't paid.
That's serious.
And as we talk about the 95,837,306 that government has to come up with now for WAEC to start preparing for the BEC that starts on the 8th of July, which is less than a month away from now. He also noted that so far, WAEC has received out of the 95 million, just 2,284,618 Ghana cedis, leaving an outstanding balance of 93,552,688 needed for the BEC, which starts in less than a month, right? He emphasized that the $2 million received is insufficient to facilitate the examination. The Minority Caucus on the Education Committee in Parliament first raised the issue sometime last week, calling for a payment schedule from government. That does not happen as yet. And if what is happening at the ports is anything to go by, you can understand why the concerns of WAEC are critical as we speak. The children are preparing, they are studying for the BEC, not unknown to them. WAEC.
Well, now they will get to know what's happening.
What's happening.
And hopefully it doesn't derail them.
Hopefully so. And that's the information that we're getting right now. So it's one that we'll keep an eye on and keep updating our listeners, also on our viewers on Facebook, on here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're working on the telephone to get through to the West African Examinations Council to speak on this very urgent situation right now. And if you're a parent and you're listening to us right now and your ward is preparing for the BEC, which starts on July 8, you should be concerned. If you're watching us on Facebook right now as well, that's information that we're having. Government would have to make available 95,837,306 to WAEC to also prepare for this BEC 2024, which starts in less than a month. Out of the 95 million, they've received just a little over 2 million, leaving an arrears of over 93 million, which they need to prepare for the exams for brothers and sisters to go and sit and write. So when we get through to WAEC, we'll speak to them on this. But you may have already heard, but if you haven't, Dumso is returning as if you have been sleeping with electricity, at least an improved situation over the last at least 3 weeks. Well, the situation is going to get worse. That's according to the Ghana Grid Company, GRIDCO, and the Electricity Company of Ghana. The situation, according to the power sector players, has been occasioned by a drop in gas supply from Nigeria via the West African Gas Pipeline Company Limited, WAPCO. In a joint statement, ECG and GRIDCO explained that the development will result in load shedding at least for the next few weeks until the situation improves. This is what we do know about the WAPCO maintenance work. WAPCO, that's the West African Gas Pipeline Company, transporters of gas from Nigeria, has shut down its facility for a 3-week maintenance period, resulting in a decrease of gas available for WAPCO to transport to customers in Togo, Benin, and Ghana. Current situation is entirely out of WAPCO's control from what we're gathering, and WAPCO continues to transport gas from western region of Ghana to Tema and also in Ghana. We expect normalcy to return after the maintenance activities, that is for the 3-week period ahead of us. Now, maintenance has also caused reduction in overall power generation capacity in Ghana, which could result in load management over the next 3 weeks. GRIDCO and ECG collaborating with other stakeholders in power value chain to optimize available resources to ensure minimal impact on consumers is what we're hearing. Now, if you go on our Facebook page at 3FM927, you'll see the statement co-signed by both ECG and GRIDCO about the power supply issues and the gas challenge from Nigeria. The details of it is on our Facebook page at 3FM927 right now. Let's get a quick conversation on this. Kojo Yauche is policy lead of petroleum and conventional energy at the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP. Kojo, appreciate your time. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good evening. Okay, thanks for having me.
I was thinking that with gas, we shouldn't be having problems as a country, especially because we have in abundance. So what's going on?
That is the thinking of everyone. We have in abundance, especially if you consider that we are actually flaring gas on our gas fields. You would think that we should be able to channel that gas into power production. But unfortunately, the infrastructure development that will need that gas to come on stream for power production has not, the pace of that development has been slow. So we have to flare the gas. So that is what gives that thinking that we have gas. Why are we still concerned of gas situation? But what is available now that we are using from ENI, from the Jubilee field through Ghana gas is not enough. And also the imports that we get from Nigeria is actually not enough to meet the demand for power production. So we have to really accelerate the development of the infrastructure. And I'm speaking of the gas stream 2, or the Ghana gas stream 2, be able to process more for the domestic market, the power market.
So essentially, we have gas in abundance. We are even flaring, as it were, like we are wasting some. That the issue is about the infrastructure to transport this gas and make good use of it. That's what we don't have.
The infrastructure to process the gas.
To process the gas.
To make it available for power generation. Yeah.
So what would it take? Because I mean, from what I do know, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when we discovered oil in commercial quantity, and then eventually we developed the Atuabo gas plant and supplies, we have 100% ownership of the gas, is it not?
Yeah, we do.
So where is the disconnect?
So the gas plant was supposed to be in 2 phases. A first phase, which we currently have, then a second phase that would augment and scale up what we already have, right? But we've not been able to proceed to the second phase. Be that as it may, fortunately, the plants that run power generation in this country are multiple from plants. So the expectation is that even if you have shortfalls in gas supply, we should be able to rely on liquid fuels, which, I mean, we've all moved away from because of its cost and also its environmental implications. But they provide you the opportunity to smoothen power supply when there are shortfalls in any of the sources. So the key question here is, now that Nigeria gas are giving us an indication that they are not going to be available to the volumes that we have for the next 3 weeks, what preparations have we done to ensure that the alternatives are available. Luckily, today we had a public forum on the power sector where the GRICO gave an indication that government has made some purchases for liquid fuels for the plants that are able to do the multiple fuel to use in the interim, just to ensure that we don't have a worsening condition that we already are experiencing. Because before this communique came this week, we've been having power supply challenges. So not to worsen it, we've had some stopgap measures to smoothing power supply within the period. We just are waiting to see if enough fuel has been purchased to last us within the period to ensure that the power, the life stays.
I see. Now, so what should be your thinking, going forward, Kojo, because this is not the first time we have been at the receiving end or we've been impacted by the maintenance schedule of WAPCO, which we know would happen on a yearly basis. And then it's going to result in these power outages. So what should be the thinking going forward?
I think it's really borders on planning. If this is a planned maintenance, then everybody in the space would have known that this year, this is the period within which WAPCO wants to do its maintenance, its scheduled maintenance. And we should be able to plan to have alternative fuels around those times. Until at such a time that we are able to bring on more gas from our gas fields by bringing on an extended train on the Ghana gas plant. Those contingency planning need to be more effective, much more effective than we are seeing now.
Kojo, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Great. As Kojo Yauche is policy lead, petroleum and conventional energy at the Africa Center for Energy Policy.
Now, the latest review of Ghana's constitutional provisions has asked that the president of Ghana only appoint 25 members of parliament as his ministers of state. The draft review also said that the president must pay taxes on his earnings as a public office holder and recommended that the maximum members of parliament Ghana can have should be 277. This last proposal means that the Electoral Commission may have to create an additional one constituency after the recently created one constituency. Now, the recommendations provided by the Constitution Review Consultative Committee was launched yesterday. Let me run you through a few other things that they said. The committee said that it had been concerned with how the change in political leadership and abandonment of some of the developmental projects were not just interrupting the work of the National Development Planning Commission, but also the developmental progress of the country, and needed that to change. In its draft report, it said also that there must be capping on the number of MPs. The numbers must be 277 maximum. This will mean that the EC may have to create one more constituency. Like I just told you, the president can also appoint 25 ministers of state from parliament. We'll be speaking to a governance expert very shortly. But first, we're joined on the line now by Inus Afuseni. He's a former MP for Tamale Central and the man who presented that draft report yesterday. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, welcome. We welcome Beatrice.
You were invited to present this report. I suppose you are familiar with the details of these 400-plus paged document. First, why did the committee recommend that the members of parliament rise to 277 instead of what we have now, and the need for the president to appoint only 25 from parliament to be his ministers of state?
So we as a country are in dire straits. Wastage is part of the problems that we're having to deal with. We spend 70% of our revenue on the payment of emoluments alone, leaving almost nothing for development and investment. The Constitution enjoins the Electoral Commission to create constituencies using a certain criteria or standard. Now, the population of Ghana is about 33 million. Presently, we have 275 members of parliament. If you divide 33 million by 275, you should be getting about 120,000 inhabitants of a constituency to be represented by a member of parliament. But you know as well as I do that there are some constituencies in this country that have only about 25,000 people or less, but they are constituencies. Now, most of these constituencies have come about as a result of gerrymandering. A 33 million population should not have 275 members of parliament. Now, but how did the committee come to 276? Now, we know that presently we are 275. There is a matter in court concerning the representation of the Central Fee, Akwafu, Lolobi, and Likwe. Hopefully, the Electoral Commission will create that constituency and they will elect a member of parliament. So, in the next parliament, we expect to have a 276 member parliament. Now, but 276 is an even number. Now, the rules of parliament require that if a motion is put to the House and there's equality of votes, the motion fails. So, as a people, we do not have to create a condition where motions will likely fail because of the parity in numbers. And that is why the committee recommended that if the Central Fee, Akwafu, Lolobi, and Likwe are represented in the next parliament, the Electoral Commission should be given one opportunity to create, if they want to, a constituency, so that brings the number to a maximum of 277. That's the cap. Let me hasten to add that it doesn't mean that at any time Ghana should have 277 members of parliament. The Electoral Commission, in their own wisdom and in consultation with stakeholders, can decide to align those constituencies and bring the numbers down.
I understand the point you make about gerrymandering and all of that, but again, there's a bit of this report which talks about even deleting that privilege of the president appointing deputy ministers, because your point was that our government size is too bloated. So one would have thought that you probably might apply that to parliament as well by actually recommending a reduction, finding a way of working out the numbers so that we're able to reduce the size of parliament as well.
That's exactly what I've said in my concluding statement. That doesn't mean that the Electoral Commission cannot realign the constituencies to reduce the number of members of parliament, except to say that the highest limit should be 277.
Any reason for the 25 members to be selected from the House for ministers of state, why you chose that number?
The committee considered the provisions of the Constitution that establishes cabinet and provides in that provision that cabinet should consist of not less than 11 ministers and not more than 19. Cabinet advises the president on matters of policy. So if you are not a cabinet minister, you might only hear of the policy from the cabinet ministers who have discussed the policy, or you hear of the policy in Parliament. Now, so it is important that you take inspiration from the limited number of people who have been indicated or provided for in the Constitution to be the cabinet of the Republic. And so the committee was of the view that the number of ministers will be reduced to 25, and then the deputy ministers and regional ministers will be scrapped. And that will also release expenditure on government purse and ensure that the chief administrators and other technical and professional staff at the ministries will help the minister to do the work.
One other highlight of this report has been you recommending, or the committee recommending, that the president pays tax as well. Why has it become necessary now? And I'm asking you two questions in one. And also the bit about, will it really mean much? Because the president enjoys a lot more privileges that ordinary public sector workers or the Ghanaians don't enjoy.
So taking it from your concluding statement, the president, like any other public officer, enjoys salaries from the consolidated fund, but public officers, other than the president, pay taxes on their income. I thought that the fact is, the president, being the first gentleman of the land and the leader of the country, is required to lead by example. So you don't suffer persons who are not equally circumstanced with the president to pay taxes, while a person who is enjoying all the perks of office doesn't pay tax. Equity, it flies in the face of equity and fairness. And that is why the committee was of the view that the president should set a good example by paying tax on his income.
Let me ask you this before you go. You're a lawyer, and I'll quote a bit of the recommendations of the committee again, which said that it also added, in the light to fair trial, one of the requirements of a democracy is the right to a speedy trial. The committee therefore recommends that persons charged with criminal offences be given fair hearing within 6 months. What does this mean, really? That means that when a person is charged before court, the prosecution must complete within 6 months. We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much, Inisa Fuseni. He's a former member of parliament for Tamale Central and a private legal practitioner. The gentleman who was asked to present that review report yesterday when it was launched.
Larry, let's run through just portions of this recommendations, Beatrice. So we have Professor Bafajimendria in a bit on.
So let me just go through that again. It says that the committee, which was one of the primary concerns, the committee had been concerned with how the change in political leadership and abandonment of some of the developmental projects were not just interrupting the work of the National Development Planning Commission, but also the developmental progress of the country, and needed that to change. So the emphasis is on the change in political leadership and abandoning some developmental projects. It also said that there must be capping on the numbers of MPs, which I've just had a conversation on with Inusa Fuseni. The maximum must be 277, and also the fact that the president should appoint 25 ministers of state from parliament, cannot go beyond that. So these are basically some of the things. And of course, what I just discussed with Inusa, the last bit about the need for people to have fair trial, and it must go maximum 6 months.
There's one that has generated a lot of conversation, and about the president paying taxes on his income. And Inusa Fuseni explains that this is on the platform of fairness. But I recall that this question has come up a number of times in the past, where you begin to question what was in the consideration or the minds of the framers of the Constitution when they put it in there, that the president's income is tax exempt. Okay, so I think that these are some of the questions that we would want to find out from a governance expert when he joins us shortly, or what, in his view, could have been the consideration by the framers of the Constitution, reason why they thought that at that time
it was necessary.
It was necessary for the president not to pay taxes on his income. But now it has become necessary to begin to think about the president paying taxes.
But again, that's also where the other side comes in. He's enjoying other benefits that other people. So will it really mean much?
Well, that's a fundamental derivation to make, and so if you look at it, you can also understand why those who think that, look, this is not even necessary. Because that's the import of the question that you're asking, really. That if there are so many other benefits, then what would this difference make so much? But look, if he is paying taxes on his income, the country will make money.
I believe so. Yeah. Shouldn't be a bad idea.
At all. 35,000, 40,000 cedis on his income. The last Emoluments Committee recommendations, I think, has the president's salary That's without the allowances. It's about 40,000.
And actually, if you look through this report again, it talks about setting up a formula or a mechanism of a sort to determine the salaries of presidents, really.
So it shouldn't be the responsibility of emoluments committee. They can have a formula to work with. Nothing more, nothing less. I think that's a fair one, at the end. So that CTAG, and all these people, they will know the formula that they use in calculating the president's salary, the vice president's salary, and the members of parliament, and so on. Because as we speak, they are asking that there should be another recommendation by another emoluments committee, because the salaries that the MPs are being paid on now is per the recommendations of the Yan Tiamwa Bedu Committee emoluments recommendations, which was quite a while ago. So we'll see.
And I think one of the interesting bits about this whole report, some of the commentaries being that there's a need for us to have repetitive review or continuous review of the documents we have, so that we meet the current trends and needs of the country.
And we'll see how things play out. Some 14 minutes to the top of the hour, 6 p.m. here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency, Samuel Okujeto Blakwa, is calling for the immediate summoning of the board and management of the Winneba Trauma and Specialist Hospital, along with the Ministry of Health, to respond to reports alleging that a patient was abandoned in the bush, leading to her death. The woman is reported to have been abandoned in a bush at Gomoa, Ojobi, in the central region. According to Samuel Okujeto Blakwa, the matter demonstrates, quote, the height of inhumanity, and Parliament should take an interest on, quote. And this was reported by 3news.com that a woman with a POP on both legs, wrapped in a cloth, with a wheelchair by her side, had been left in a bush. Reports indicated that the woman was abandoned by an ambulance from the Trauma and Specialist Hospital in Winneba, according to some eyewitnesses in the community. Speaking on the floor of Parliament earlier today, Samuel Okujeto Blakwa condemned the act and insisted that all stakeholders involved be urgently summoned to address the issue.
And if you're watching us on Facebook, you can actually see visuals and pictures of videos and pictures of this woman that we're talking about, with a POP and a lot of lice around the POP. Quite disheartening there, to
say the least. And let's take a listen to Samuel Okujeto Blakwa right now.
For the first time after lurking around for years, the affirmative action bill has been laid with a firm assurance by the Speaker to see to an urgent passage. Another determination of government is to have free SHS properly regulated. A week of back and forth from the majority and the minority on the constitutional mandate, government appears to be in a hurry.
We expect that in the ensuing week, the free SHS bill will be presented to the House for first reading by the Minister of Education.
A matter of urgent public interest, supposedly to have happened at the Winneba Trauma Hospital, has caught Parliament's attention.
The Winneba Government Hospital, it has been reported that doctors and nurses there just threw out a patient who had an accident. They couldn't locate the patient's relations. The patient says she comes from somewhere, Oboji or something of that
For
nature.
the first time after
the ensuing week,
and the minority,
the free SHS Minister
Hospital has
in the bush. Doctors and nurses there, after 3 days, just threw out
the patient
a patient who had an accident.
That Parliament
they couldn't locate the patient.
Doing its oversight.
After 3 days, the Speaker, the patient died.
I hold a view. We have indicated that the Parliament must be seen to be doing its oversight. That the institution concerned has a primary mandate. Their report. They have indicated that they instituted an investigation. I hold a humble view that we allow them to do their work, get their report published. That is my view on that matter.
The necessary sanctions meted out, and if Parliament would want to do further,
we can do
on
that.
TV.
So, Mr. Speaker, that is my view on that matter.
It's so I got so sad that as a country we have gone that low. It should not happen. But this
we have to do first is to await.
So what we have to do first is to await the investigation by the appropriate authorities, and then if we feel that justice has not been done, we will exercise our oversight responsibility and take it on.
The attention of the Speaker has all.
So that's Kamala Clocher there, giving the full breakdown of what happened in Parliament today and the reactions of both the Speaker of Parliament, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, and the Majority Leader, are all responding to this rather unfortunate incident and the reports that we got earlier. It's live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's go back to earlier story where the latest review of Ghana's constitutional provisions has asked that the president of Ghana only appoints 25 members of parliament as ministers of state. The draft review also said that the president must pay taxes on his earnings as a public office holder and recommended that the maximum members of parliament Ghana can have should be 277. So we do know that going into this election, we're going to have 276 constituencies. Professor Bafo Ajumendia is a governance expert, a former United Nations advisor on governance, is joining us on the telephone. Professor Ajumendia, appreciate your time. Good evening to you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's start off with that recommendation of the capping of the constituencies. Because what we do know is that new constituencies are created when, for instance, the Electoral Commission, based on the law, reviews the population of a particular constituency, and there's a reason why it has to be either demarcated into 2 or 3, as we have seen in previous instances. We're going into this election where another constituency is going to be created for the people of Santrof, Kofi, Apafu, Lolobi, and Likpe, the Sao people. So we're going to have 276 constituencies. This recommendation that the constituencies be capped to 277. What's your thought on that?
It's a great proposal because certainly if we have to go by the census, anytime we have census every 10 years, we have to adjust constituency boundaries. Then it's possible, conceivably, in the next 20 or 30 years, you're going to have about 350 or 400 parliamentarians, which is not what you need. So it's an excellent proposal, together with the proposal to place a cap on the number of ministers from Parliament. But frankly, I wish they had proposed that, in fact, no member of Parliament should be appointed a minister. The whole idea of the checks and balance system in democracy is for the legislature to be independent, to be able to hold the executive fully to account. But in a case where you have some executive members coming from Parliament, it tends to weaken the Parliament's ability to effectively and honestly checkmate the executive. So personally, that's not something I will endorse. Rather, there should be no appointment of ministers from anybody who is a parliamentarian who wants to be a minister. Simply resign yourself. You can be a full-time member of the executive, but this kind of mixed system has not been very helpful. This year, for instance, we've been very lucky to have a hung parliament. That really makes parliament lively. That makes the checks and balances systems work better. But this is the only time we have had a hung parliament. I'm not sure, and I don't know if we are going to have it again. So I'm really not in favor of that. But more importantly, Alfred, this whole notion of constitutional review should be taken more seriously than what is being proposed by this committee. The fundamental issue we need to address ourselves to is the philosophical basis of our democratic system. Democracy, as it is commonly defined, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, which means that democracy really must begin at the grassroots. In our structures, the district assemblies, communities, represent the grassroots. But the system we have currently really neglects that part of our society. Everything has been top-heavy and top-down. Look, our political elites, all concentrated in Accra, are the executive. They sit here and give directives to the least thing that government has to do at the local level. So how I'm looking at a review that will truly devolve power from the center to the peripheries, in this case, the district assemblies. We have to be focusing our development at the district and local community levels. That will help people not to always expect government. These days, any problem that happens anywhere, you people in the media go around. What do people tell you? We call on government to come to our aid. We want the president to come to our aid. That should stop. We have disempowered people for them to think that anything they need in this world must come from the top, must come from the president. That's the wrong way of really having a democratic society. So for me, if we are seriously interested in reviewing the Constitution, then we have to look at the philosophical underpinnings of democracy and make sure that power is devolved from the center to the districts so that we can have the full and active participation of people in matters that in issues that matter to their lives.
It's a very perfect, comprehensive analysis of some of the things I was even going to ask you. But I just wanted to find out that what was the consideration of the framers of the Constitution, the 1992 Constitution, when they put in Article 68.5 that the president's salary and emoluments should be exempt of taxes. Reason why now there's good consideration or reason to even review that Article 68 in the first place.
Frankly, this part of the proposal came to me as a surprise. It's tangential to the needs we have. If you exempt president from taxes, it's really, for me, it's nothing. So for the whole committee to come out with this proposal, this is not groundbreaking. How much will the president pay on his taxes? Of course, we can say a president is a citizen, and therefore, like all citizens, they should be liable to taxation. Fine. But again, that is not the issue we are confronted with. Just as reducing the size of ministers is an issue, it's not. We're talking about reducing the size of government as a way of reducing public expenditures. That is the issue. But more importantly, we are talking about empowering our people to be active agents of development. And that will mean that the 92 Constitution, that seems to have concentrated power in the hands of the executive. Everything in Accra. Recently, I heard somebody saying Accra is Ghana, Ghana is Accra. It's not true. Accra cannot be Ghana, and Ghana cannot be Accra. Ghana is from the north to the south, east to the west, and all of this matters. So to bring the wealth of this country just in Accra, as we have in our politics, is a wrong approach to development. Those in Nalerigu, in Tamale, in Bole, in Ahafu, wherever, should have the power to determine their development. Not people, bureaucrats, and the small political elite sitting in Accra and determining where a school building should be placed and how much should be paid for. That is not democracy. So I think since we don't have a federal system, nobody is calling for that. We should use the structures of the district assembly, to become the focus of development. Of course, some districts are not blessed with natural resources. The idea of governance is for the central government in this case to make sure that in managing the resources, those who are deprived for this or other reason are properly compensated. So if you look at, say, the district assembly common fund, there is a formula for determining how much goes to places. So if there's a particularly deprived area, maybe they will get more than an area that is richly endowed. That is how a government is supposed to function, but not for bureaucrats to sit in Accra and determine how much a village in the north or in Bronhafu or in Western gets. For me, that's a fundamental problem we have in the country, but the politicians are skirting over that. Look, in this proposal, I also know that they are saying the districts MCs and DCs should be elected. Fine, we support it. But it shouldn't end there. Because if you elect districts, the DCs, but you are not devolving financial power, what you call fiscal decentralization, for them to get what is necessary for them to develop their localities, we have done nothing. So the idea of just getting DCs elected by itself is meaningless. It becomes meaningful only when there's also fiscal decentralization, so that the Minister of Finance will not sit here, collect the common fund, the District Assembly Common Fund, and for 8 months, for 1 year, they haven't sent a penny to the districts. Whereas this fund should have been directed to the districts for them to do their project. Again, recently we heard that the government, central government, wanted to give a private company the mandate to collect property taxes across the nation. Bring it to Accra for the bureaucrats to decide 30% for this, 30% for that. That is not right. The property tax is the basis for districts to develop. So the central government should not go and play with that one. So I guess my point here is that if we are really serious for reviewing the Constitution, let us look at the fundamentals, but not these superficialities of reducing, assigning numbers to how many should come from Parliament. For me, they are meaningless. I don't even want to waste my time on that. Let's make sure power is devolved to the people through the district assemblies, so that the district assemblies and the local communities can become the focus of development.
And then a very perfect point made there. And before I let you go, I get the sense that you want us to, beyond just the verbal commitment, make meaning of decentralization. This path that we have been on, the political parties, MPP and NDC, all talk about decentralization. And in fact, we have a whole ministry of decentralization, yet we still don't see that needed commitment to bring to fruition the real essence of decentralization in our governance, is it not?
Precisely. Because you see, the politicians know that it is in their interest, their parochial interest, I should say, when they are in power, to control the districts, to control the money, the exchequer, to control everything. Because through that, they can appoint their party members, those who are loyal to the party and loyal to the president, to all these positions. Don't you know that the president of Ghana has about 7,000 positions to fill when he assumes power? And all these positions go to their party stalwarts and loyalty without regard to merit, competence, or what have you. Nothing. You can go to certain districts today and you look at the kinds of people who are DCEs and MCEs. They are good ones, don't get me wrong. Very good ones. But majority are completely useless to their districts. Only because the person was a stalwart in the party, he did something for the president, and these are the rewards. And that doesn't help development. So when the parties are in opposition, they favor decentralization in a manner that I'm describing it. But once they are in power, they have no interest whatsoever. Because if they did that, then these largesse, these political largesse they give up, you were good, you supported me, DC, be that. That, I think, must stop. And we can only stop it if the districts are given this kind of autonomy, more or less, to manage their own resources and plan and execute their developments. The final point I should make regarding this idea of placing a cap on not just parliament and also perhaps on ministers and all, the devolution of power should also look at the discretion of the president to create institutions and appoint people. Look, there are so many state institutions in this country that only consume wealth without creating wealth. Many of them. And you go there, there's a CEO and about 3-4 deputies, all with 4-wheel drives and housing allowance and clothing allowance and all these specs. What do they contribute? You don't create institutions that do not create wealth. You don't create institutions. So look, I think the power of the president, even though people don't want to talk about it, is excessive. That's why at times we describe this presidency as an imperial presidency that the 92 Constitution has created. They can go and sleep, a president can go and sleep the next morning. He thinks of giving a job to somebody. He creates something called SIGA. SIGA.
The State Interest Governance Authority?
Tell me, what do they do? The institutions that they are supervising, most of them are irrelevant. Most of them are not productive. They are rather a drain on the economy. But SIGA may have a CEO, maybe there are 2 other 3 other CEOs doing what? So I think we have to be serious with the way we are managing ourselves. The debt, the indebtedness, the problems we are having in this country. Whilst I recognize the external forces that continuously undermine us, to a large extent, it is our own doing. Our own doing. We just simply don't want to face the facts and continue to undermine ourselves.
Professor Baffa Ajmendia, as always, it's great talking to you.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Professor Baffa Ajmendia is a governance expert, a former United Nations advisor on governance, joining us here on Hot Edition. We're back shortly with the business news after this quick break with Bill's Microcredit.
Everyone is running to Bills. Enjoy the peace of mind that comes with acquiring any of our loan facilities. For whoever you are and whatever you're doing, Bills has a product for you. No susu, no deposits. All you need is your Ghana card. Call 0302-200-390 or 0596-928-33 today and live a bill-free life. Bills Microcredit is licensed by the Bank of Ghana. Bills, financing your needs. Terms and conditions apply.
Lego was so cool.
Ready, set, go!
Calling all vendors, parents, guardians, expectant mothers and fathers. The 3FM Baby Fair is back. 3FM 92.7 presents the 3FM Baby Fair 2024. Your one-stop shop for all childcare products, clothes, toys, and child development products for 3 exciting days on Friday the 14th, Saturday the 15th, and Sunday the 16th of June 2024 at the Marina Mall Airport City, Accra. Are you a vendor or dealer in children products or services, children educational materials, or anything related to children of all ages? Then you need to be at the 92.7 3FM Baby Fair. To be a part of the fair and exhibit your product and services, please call 0531 100 927 and 0532 200 927 right now. Parents, make it a family affair at the 3FM Baby Fair with fun photo booths for family shoots, kids arena for the kids to have fun, and so much excitement. 3FM Baby Fair on the 14th June, 15th June, and 16th June 2024 at Marina Mall Airport City, Accra. 3FM Baby Fair is powered by 3FM, supported by TV3 and Marina Mall. 3FM 92.7, your urban lifestyle radio. 3FM Baby Fair is proudly sponsored by the First Bank Ghana, Cousins Baby, and Fidelity Bank.
Hello, good evening. It's time now for the business segment on Hot Edition. Coming up, cedi depreciation pressure continues to deny price cuts at the pumps for petroleum consumers amid reduction in international prices. We'll bring you details. I am Bismarck Ausa. To our very first story, petroleum products have recorded decline in prices for 2 times in a row. Specifically, price of petrol has fallen by 5.49%, diesel by 2.82%, and LPG by 1.48% over the last 2 weeks. Following the positive price changes recorded on the international market, prices at the local pumps are expected to reflect a reduction to bring some comfort to consumers. However, the Institute of Energy Security, IES, in its review of June 2024 first pricing window, indicates that the consistent poor performance of the Ghana cedi against the US dollar is likely to prevent any expected drop in fuel price to reflect world fuel market dynamics. Adam Yakubu is a research analyst at the IES.
Prices, as we are seeing from the world fuels market, is that all petroleum product prices are on the decline, meaning prices are falling on the world fuel markets. Ordinarily, one would have expected that we should see that translate on the domestic fuel market. However, the Ghana cedi's consistent poor performance, consistent in a sense that last window, the first pricing window of June 2024, saw the cedi depreciate by some 4.59%. In the second pricing window, it is recording another 3.44%, and this has been consistent over time. And so it is making it difficult, extremely difficult, to see the full reflection of what we are observing on the world fuels market.
And that was research analyst at the Institute of Energy Security, IES, Adam Yakubu. Moving on, Chief Executive of the Consumer Protection Agency, Kofi Kapito, is calling on the Electricity Company of Ghana to release a timetable for the 3-week expected power cuts announced by the Ghana Grid Company, Gridco. Gridco recently announced a 3-week power outage, citing reduced gas supply from the West Africa Gas Pipeline Company in Nigeria.
I have actually defended ECG on the term timetable as to the challenges why they can't bring it. That was a different time. But this specific announcement that for 3 weeks, they know the situation is going to come. They can have time to prepare, come up with timetable, if possible, ASAP, for us to start planning. This thing that, no. Just put out the timetable there. Because even the first doomsaw, even though we had timetable, sometimes you're supposed to go off and you get light. And sometimes you're supposed to be on and you don't get light. It's part of doing business. But I agree, with these 3 weeks, I think the timetable will be the right thing to do.
And Chief Executive of Consumer Protection Agency, Kofi Kapito, there. The Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, is calling on government to, as a matter of urgency, invest in fueling of power plants to resume exportation of electricity to neighboring countries. President Akufo-Addo some months ago ordered Gridco to cut electricity supply to neighboring countries due to inadequate supply to meet local demand. However, ACEP wants the order reviewed to provide the much-needed forex for the country to control the persistent cedi depreciation.
The power sector was bringing in serious sums of money. If you're selling 200 megawatts upwards of power, you could be bringing in minimum $15 to $20 million every month, right? And we decide to cut that off. That has implication for the stability of the city as well. But if that was part of our inflows and suddenly it's, shut down or is curtailed, it impacts, how much forex we have in the system. So we need to address some of these challenges much more comprehensively, particularly when the power plants are there and all it takes is be able to, buy fuel and run them. And the sad reality also is that when the power plants are there on take-or-pay commitments and you don't run them, you are still paying for the power plants.
And that was Executive Secretary of ACEP, Benjamin Boache, ending the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please log on to 3news.com. Bill Eshen is next with sports.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Shen. Let's start from the local scene where Sports Minister Mustafa Yusuf has called out Ghana's national amputee team, the Black Challenge, for visiting other personalities before reporting at the ministry. He's demanding account of funds received from government for the campaign in Egypt. They earlier visited former President John Dramani Mahama, who made a donation of $10,000 to the team.
Unlike last year when you came here directly, this year you started going from one place to another place and to another place without even reference to the government who sponsored you. And that cannot be tolerated. How to put it to you, not only you, any national team. If it's your personal club, a private club, that is fine. That is your club. As national team, once you come, you should know that you are representing the states. So that is what I just want to tell you. So I've asked the president of the Ghana National Para Team. We have seen that you have received a lot of donations, which is good for us. You should account for it because it's for the state, it's not for you. And he has indicated that he will definitely come and account for it. And government will then see what we do to complement whatever you have received already. So that is the information I just want to. I will communicate after you have presented all the statements, all what you have received to us, to my office. So, Mr. Samson Bill, we'll be looking forward. And once that is done, we will then make sure that we will also communicate to you what government wants to use. Thank you so much.
That was the Minister of Youth and Sports, Honorable Mustafa Yusuf. Now, the Black Challenge won the 2024 Amputee AFCON when they beat Morocco 2-1 in the final. Now, two other stories for the Black Stars. In an exclusive interview with Otuado, the coach of the Black Stars, he did mention that his exclusion of Andre Ayew is a way of trying to get the best out of the team. He implies that he's the head coach and he has made the decision for the best of the team. Now let's take a listen to exactly what he said around Andre Ayew.
I'm going to ask this question this way. Are you almost tired of having to answer the question about about leaving Andre Ayew from the last Black Stars? And how are you going to address this going forward? There are matches in September. CAF announced this morning that there could be 2 matches in September, potentially another 2 in October, because there's such a crammed program to make sure that the competition for the Nations Cup takes place as quickly as possible. How are you going to deal with this? Because it doesn't look like that conversation will go away anytime soon.
I think it's a normal question. He's a player, I said it before, he's a legend, living legend. He has done so much for the nation. He sacrificed so much for the nation. Good guy, good character. He represents Ghana these days like no one else. But surely, me as a coach, I have to think about the Ghana national team, what's best for the Ghana national team. And I had a good conversation with him. And I took my decision. And I said it before, it won't be fair to talk about something about the content in public. This is a private conversation and I want to keep it as that. But like I said, I take my decision and it's at the end always for the best of the nation and also for the team.
That was Otuado, the head coach of the Black Stars. The full interview will be airing on TV3 at 2 p.m. on Saturday, so do stay tuned. Let's move straight to the European Championship because it begins tonight and Germany, the host, will be taking on Scotland in the opening game, which starts at 7 p.m. Here are the lineups for the two teams. For Germany, we have Manuel Neuer in goal. We have Antonio Rudiger, Jonathan Tah, Joshua Kimmich, Kai Havertz, Toni Kroos, Jamal Musiala, Florian Wirtz, Masmilian Mittelstadt, Ilkay Gundogan and Robert Andrich. For Scotland, they have Angus Gunn in goal, Anthony Ralston, Andy Robertson as the captain, Scott McTominay, Kieran Tierney, John McGinn, Callum McGregor, Che Adams, Ryan Christie, Jack Hendry and Ryan Porteous in the lineup for Scotland. That brings an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Shen, and of course Alfred is still on standby with more.
Beatrice, thank you so much for all the latest in the world of sports this morning on 3news.com. Let's stay a bit further on Hot Edition as the earlier information I gave to you about the impending Basic Education Certificate Examination BC, which WAEC is raising some concerns about, and the possible impediments in the way of WAEC in organizing this. Fortunately, we have the Director of Public Affairs at WAEC, John Kapi, joining us on the telephone for a conversation on this. So Kapi, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good evening, my pleasure.
Great. Now, first off, let's establish this, that how much do you need to organize this, or to put together this BEC, which starts in less than a month?
Good evening, and good evening to your listeners. Well, we have submitted a budget to the Ministry of Education already, but then based on the budget we prepared, each candidate is to pay 214 cedis and 1 peswa. So if all candidates pay their examination fees, we would be in a position to conduct the examination and also be able to pay all personnel as expected. And that would amount to how much? That would amount to 95,837,306 Ghana cedis.
And now that government has taken the responsibility of paying for the fees of these BEC candidates, essentially this money has to come from government, correct?
Yes, that's what it means. We have 2 categories of candidates. We have those in the private schools and those in the public schools. So the figure I have mentioned represents that which the public schools are supposed to pay, and that's the cost that the government has decided to absorb.
And that is the 95,837,306 Ghana cedis.
Yes.
How much have you received as of now?
So far, we've received 2,284,618 Ghana cedis from the government.
And that leaves an arrears of about 93,552,000 thereabout, is it not?
Yes, you are correct.
So if you have less than a month, I mean, BC starts on the 8th of July. So what's going to happen if you don't get at least a substantial amount?
Well, what it means is that we would not be able to conduct the examination as expected.
Parents who are listening to you right now will certainly be concerned. I mean, what has there been any correspondence between yourself and, in this case, the Ministry of Education as to when this money is going to come?
Oh, yeah, sure. There has been a correspondence between us and the Ministry of Education. Well, that actually culminated in the payment of the 2.2 million, as I mentioned to you earlier on. So we are still in talks. But as I speak, as a council, let me just add this, that we have our program of activities. And so as we speak, printing is ongoing, packing is ongoing. But then the main act of conducting the examination would probably, face problems if we don't get any more payments from the government.
And what are these main aspects that will be affected if this money doesn't come?
Well, first of all, let me say that although printing is going on, we are actually enjoying the magnanimity of our suppliers. The bond paper that we are using for printing, for example, have been supplied on credit. The consumables at the printing press have also been acquired on credit. So obviously these suppliers will be expecting that some money will be paid to them as the weeks go by. Now, we also have our examination officials who are going to go out there and ensure that sanity prevails around the examination centers. We have our staff who are also going to man what we call examination depots, and all of these people would have to be accommodated, they'll have to be taken care of. And so all of this calls for money, and so if we don't get any more payments from the government, that will probably make it difficult for the council to conduct the BEC.
This delay in making the money available to you, is it normal? Has it ever happened this way before, that you don't have money until less than a month for BEC to start?
Well, yes, we've had situations like this. It is difficult for you to have a timetable for payment from the government. They, at their own time, could call and tell you pick up a check for this amount. At another time, they call you pick up a check for this amount. So really, we've been through this before, and all we are praying for, especially because of our little ones, that some money should be made available to us, and then we'll be able to conduct the examination as expected.
But definitely, if you don't get the money early enough, you have what, a little over 3 weeks for the exams to start. That impacts on your effective preparation, does it not?
Certainly, it does impact but you know what? This is something we've done for years, and so we know what to do at what time. Now, we've put a few things in place we are working towards. For example, the examination stationery has been supplied again by our suppliers, with the understanding that over the next few weeks we would be able to pay for those items. So these we are preparing, and so we are on course. But then when it gets to that particular point where we have to move out of Accra into the regions to start the actual business of conducting the examination, we would have difficulties.
So, as it stands now, the direct call to government is the 93 million, over 93 million you need to put this together. At least a substantial amount has to be made available to you before July 8th.
That's correct.
Sagapi, appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So that's the reality check as we have it now, Beatrice. Indeed.
Yeah.
So that's Mr. Kapi, speaks John Kapi. He's the Director of Public Affairs at the West African Examinations Council, WAEC. Students to parents.
Anyway, you're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's remind you of this, that for 15 years, Quick Credit has been your trusted partner in micro-lending, empowering lives and making dreams a reality. Today, we're excited to announce a new age. Quick Credit is now Bill's microcredit, still committed to serving Ghanaians and achieving and changing lives. Bills is here to show you that everything is possible. Join us as we embrace a brighter future. Bills, financing your needs. And that's how we end Hot Edition here on 3FM. My name is Beatrice.
And I am Alfred Ocansey. Join Ghana tonight at 10 p.m. with Kemini Amano. Tomorrow morning, I'm on Key Point at 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. On behalf of the rest of the team, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for staying with us.